We are men of our word. We said we're gonna have a great background, and we are not yet there, but
better.
we're halfway in.
Halfway there, it's a damn lot better. And
it's a great upgrade, right?
you look fantastic right now.
You look beautiful.
The light is like...
It's like we invested into a great fucking light and a massive softbox. Because I still can't believe how huge this thing is.
But damn, it looks good.
yeah. Such a soft light. It's just a bit tricky because, damn, you're very white.
I'm so white.
Bro,
we can talk
look
about
at
that.
you. Like, you are so white.
Let's roll the intro.
Good boy, look at you.
You gotta remember.
Asking for rolling the intro and everything. Damn.
When we're editing it, it goes for too long.
Yeah. No, I like it. How's the good vibe, people? Welcome to episode 5 of the Good Vibe series. My name is Nelson.
And my name is Matty.
And we're here to share the good vibes with the world.
Entertaining and inspiring people one episode at a time.
Motherfucker, this will never happen, right?
That was pretty good.
It was good, but you changed the word and it makes it sound a bit weird.
I reckon I was 90% of the way
Entertaining
there.
and empowering.
And empowering.
Yeah, because
inspiring?
It just sounds a bit tricky with the sentence, like the full sentence. I don't know. But I don't speak English, so you should know better.
I'd say it's good enough. We'll try again next week.
Yeah. You know, I had this idea if we do like a little segment every episode of facts. And we call it like maybe facts time, something like that.
I love
like
facts.
FT. And then we know that each one has to come up with a fact every episode kind of thing.
Ooh,
and it can be anything and we just drop it and talk a little bit about it. Something that is interesting.
Are you prepared? Do you have a fact?
I have a great fact that I still can't believe. I thought it was bullshit.
All right, let's do your fact and I'll think of one.
So, the state of Oregon in the States decriminalized the biggest drugs, which I don't know how would you call them, like heroin, cocaine.
Like the class A's.
Yeah. Like the ones with the biggest repercussions. They're the first.
They legalized
state.
cocaine.
They decriminalize it. So this is what it means.
Yeah.
Let's say you get caught with heroin, in possession of it. Obviously, if you're not a fucking dealer, because like if you have a small amount of it, you won't go to jail.
No, because the problem a lot of people realize is usage is a disease of some form.
Exactly right.
Whereas distribution is a crime.
Yes, so what they're doing is like, okay, look, Matty boy has a little bit of cocaine, bit of heroin. He's having a hard time. You know what? We're not sending him into jail. He's just gonna pay $100 fine, and then we will help him to get treatment and recovery.
I mean, it's much better.
That's fucking great.
Yeah, it's 100. I think
Isn't that incredible?
I think that's how it started with cannabis. And then it was weird because they started changing the rules, right? And then there's people sitting in jail for crimes that were not illegal anymore.
Yeah.
So they're sitting in jail.
That's such a weird thing, right? Weird. Like there's still people today in 2020 that they're having like a life sentence thing because they had possession. They were in possession of marijuana years ago. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's really weird, but I guess it's sort of justified because there was a rule at the time and they broke it. Yeah. But you'd hope when it comes up to say their parole or whatever, they're a bit more lenient. They go.
I hope they get some compensation. Like imagine if you. No?
I don't know. I don't think compensation, right? Because like they did break a rule at the time. What they were doing was a crime at the time, and it's not like you can change a law and be like, you can't just let them out, right? Because they're still.
Fuck, I don't know. It's just so weird to me. It's like, I feel like if we're the guys that make the rules, we'll be like, yeah, guys, look, we fucked up. We fucked up. You know, like that wasn't smart. We feel for the guy. It was just a bit of, marijuana. We all do it, whatever. Let's just give him a couple $100.
I think for the most part, though, people that are actually in prison for marijuana, again, it's distribution. Rather than, I don't think there's many people in jail for usage. Like, I don't think that's a thing.
No, it's
but the
probably
problem is
distribution,
like
but-
some fucking black dude on the streets in some crappy place that's been targeted, and he got caught with like fuck all, and they sent him to jail. Yeah, that guy, like, maybe not let him out, but when he does an appeal or whatever, just be like, okay, that's fair. You're coming out quite easily. Like, because he's still got to go through due process. When he goes through that, just be lenient.
And
It's weird though, very strange.
yeah, so I'm like,
So Oregon, you reckon?
yeah, Oregon.
They've decriminalized
That was just this week.
all of
this
it?
week. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Every
America's weird. I can't remember the state, but there was a state, I think it was last year, and in the same week, they passed 2 new bills, and one was decriminalizing hallucinogenic mushrooms. And at the same time...
That's Colorado, isn't it?
I can't remember which one it is.
I'm pretty sure Joe Rogan mentioned in one of his podcasts that Colorado was having some sort of election or votes, whatever, to decriminalize mushrooms.
Yeah, so you think, oh, great, this is a forward-thinking state.
Mm-hmm.
The same week, they passed the laws to criminalize abortion.
Abortion, yeah. It's like, we're doing great, but let's fuck it up on this side, you know? Like,
Yeah, it's like, okay, I don't get it. Is there a couple of
what are
guys-
your thoughts on it, though? Just to be sure.
On what?
On abortion and stuff.
I mean, it's a woman's body. She can do what she wants, sort of thing. I don't think it's definitely not up to a bunch of old white dudes in Congress to tell
It's
her
so
what she
weird, isn't it?
can and can't do.
Oh, so
The
we
dog's
have-
going off.
Yeah, Django is going off because we have some visitors.
Yeah, so I don't think old white dudes can tell a woman what she can and can't do, and I don't like that a lot of it's based in religion. Like, they're like, oh, it's a life in God and blah, 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 blah. I get it's a life, but it's
It's just
also
so weird to me
inside
that
you.
we get to decide for, like, not us. Some people get to decide for them what should they do with their bodies. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's very weird, like, when people call it murder. I mean, like, it is a life, or whatever it is going to form into a life. But if the
it depends
parents-
also of the stage of the pregnancy.
Well, that's the argument. They're like, once it's started, it is going to develop, right? So even if you do it at the start, maybe it doesn't have a heartbeat, but the hardcore people are like, well, it's still life because it's going to be life.
That's life. Yeah.
And then some people are like, oh, it has a heartbeat at this, or it can feel stuff at this. So there's 2 distinct lines. There's when there is no baby and then birth, right? I mean, I don't suggest an abortion 2 weeks before you...
It's like, you know what? We just changed our mind.
I don't have a horse in this race. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah,
there.
it's tricky, right?
But I
Because we
just-
also we're not the ones that will carry it. But
I just feel really bad that if your parents are thinking of terminating you, what world are you coming into to start with, right? If you come into a single mother that had a really drunken night, she's too young, she doesn't have a career, she doesn't even really want you, but she couldn't really change that, what's going to happen to that kid? Even if she puts it up for adoption, it's going in this whole weird
System,
thing.
yeah.
Like, and then what's happening to that kid 20 years from now?
yeah, well, I don't think there will be like a lot of cases in which that kid happens to develop in a great environment and a great family kind of thing.
This can be my fun fact.
Yeah. Oh, do you have one? Right?
I have a fun fact that's actually linked into this, so I did a segue.
Oh,
Yeah.
a segue? I don't know. You're the one that speaks English. I can barely speak English.
Segue. Segue is those things you write.
yeah, I was gonna say. I'm pretty sure a segue.
No, a segue is like
Yeah.
when you go from one topic to another. That's what a segue is.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that was an alley-oop.
Alley-oop.
Boom. Okay.
You actually know this, I'm pretty sure, because you watched the thing. But did you hear Kanye talking about his parents were going to abort him?
Did he mention that on the
He
podcast?
said that on that podcast.
I can't
Or it might
remember
have
that
even
bit.
been... Yeah, it was. It was on that podcast.
You sure? I don't remember him talking about that.
It might have been on a different podcast.
Okay.
But I thought it was that one. If not, I've definitely heard him because he cried.
Okay.
It might have.
Well, he cries a lot. No. Maybe in the election thing.
It was the election thing.
Okay.
It was the election thing.
because I remember he cried in that thing.
Yeah, that's why he cried. Because he was talking about that his parents were going to abort him. And then his ego kicks in. And he's like, could you imagine? No Kanye West?
He said that? No fucking way.
Along those lines. It was...
Bro, he is so egocentric. He's the highest level of ego. It's crazy. And like the way he was talking in the entire interview, he was just like, bro, and he doesn't even realize that he's like that, you know?
That's just him. Like, he is that. He knows what he is, but he doesn't... He's like...
Because I get if you do it in a rap song, you know, like...
Yeah, you flex. If
exactly.
If you're going to flex, you flex.
But he actually believes he's kind of like God's right-hand man kind of thing.
Yeah.
He truly believes it.
Yeah, he's definitely on the spectrum of...
Definitely on the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, incredible self-confidence.
And now that we're talking, bro, you're giving me the alley-oop. Now that we're talking about crazy motherfuckers, U.S. elections are happening. Woo. What are your thoughts on it? Well, so far, like, we're releasing this episode on Wednesday. Today is Saturday, and results haven't got in.
No, so the current state of things is... It's looking fairly promising for Biden. Trump's launched a bunch of lawsuits to sort of figure out, you know, all that stuff he's talking about with voter fraud and recounting things. It's not super ludicrous. And actually there was, it's not new. Presidents have done this before. In 2000, I think.
In Venezuela is something that we try to do every time, but when you get fraud in a third world country, there's no way around it. You're getting,
you're like, we need to go to the courts, and you go to the courts, and the president's like, yeah, what do you want?
So, what's the issue? You know, and they're getting money under the table. Like,
he's like, I don't think there was fraud. End of story.
Yeah, I think in a country like maybe Australia or the States, it'll be so hard, right, to get fraud?
No, well, not in the States. It's been proven that there has been fraud before, right?
Okay.
But
I don't have the knowledge of like past elections or fraud in the States. Yeah.
There has been fraud in the past, but not to the extent that Trump is talking. Like, to actually swing the result, we're talking...
Because like the difference as now... is
it's pretty
big enough, right?
It's pretty big.
Yeah.
And 160 million people voted. So, like, let's say 1% of that is fraud. That's like you might get fraud for, 500 here, maybe 1,000 here. But that's even a lot. But even in that case, even if
but in the big picture, it doesn't make a huge
1,000 here and here 20 times, 20,000 fraudulent votes. It's not enough.
It's not enough, yeah.
So Trump is saying, we have hard proof, we have this, we have this. I'm super interested to see if he's just talking shit like he always does. Or what if he comes out with something legitimate and he's like, because I wouldn't put that past people on the other side. Because people wanted Trump out of office so badly, that it's definitely, people would do that if there was a way to do it. So imagine if someone actually did that, Trump found out, his organization took it to the bloody Supreme Court and overturned the decision. Whoa. That would be crazy.
That would be insane, actually.
So I think by the time this podcast airs, we'll probably know a lot more about it. But it's early days.
To me, after watching so many celebrities and big personalities promoting Biden and saying like, hey, like, this is the future of our country, like Trump doesn't fit the picture, whatever, like, it made it pretty obvious to me that, well, because a lot of people had, like, people with a lot of influence, like.
Yeah, but they have influence over people in our world, right? So, you know Jimmy Kimmel?
Yeah.
He like hates Trump, like very outspoken about, oh, he's a fat idiot, and just like jokes about him all the time, right? So he gets like 5 million viewers apparently on his show, but 160 million people voted. So although it seems like pretty much everyone knows about him and sees his shit, there's a lot of people in America.
Yeah, I know.
So,
but imagine like having Shakira, Jimmy Kimmel,
but they all
influencers,
share
all
an
these
audience.
things, like most of them, like Lady Gaga, they were pretty clear, like, hey, I'm not voting for Trump, know.
So then let's think of that. There's this landslide of sort of Trump hate or don't do Trump, right? Because it came through all the major networks as well, the CNNs, all the celebrities were saying, do this. Imagine the reach of that. And now we're still in a position after everyone is against him, that it's still almost 50-50.
Yeah, that it like doesn't really matter what's the end result. The fact is that you have a divided country,
Yeah, well, there's a lot of political polarization where people are either all the way on either side. But they definitely made it out to be that it was going to be a landslide victory. They thought Biden was going to blitz him. And even if he takes a win, he hasn't won in the way that most people thought. Because they have, do you know what the Senate is?
Yeah.
So it's like the upper chamber where they have, I think, a representative from every state. So any legislation that comes through has to go through there.
Senate, yeah.
And then they thought the sort of Biden's party was going to take over the Senate. So then anything Biden passed sort of breezed through.
Yeah.
They haven't. It's still not going to be easy for all those laws to actually pass through.
Yeah.
If he doesn't take that house, which I don't know. I'm not a fucking USA politics expert, but people are saying they're probably not going to take that house. So it's not like it's going to swing all the way to the other side and suddenly
that's what I mean. Like
change.
You still have a divided country where, in terms of politics, in terms of population, like I don't know what will be like a good outcome for the states, but definitely like change is always good. That's one thing that I stick with, and especially coming from a place where you have dictators. So like we're used to have the same motherfucker just doing bad stuff to the country and a lot of corruption and, like owning all the senators and all these things where they make laws. And so it's like, there's nothing you can do about it, like.
That's not great.
Yeah, it's like going to a soccer game and then the referee is with the other team, like every referee and everyone around them that makes sure the game should be fair is with one team, so it's just like, oh, fuck, what should we do,
Yeah, that's a whole thing that we can probably get into. I wanted to touch on sort of the elections are a good starting point to talk about, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot in, I guess, my own life in like the last month or two. So it's pretty much thinking about why I think the way I think and why other people think the way they think, and if we don't draw the same conclusions, why, right?
What's the universal truth?
Well,
like how do we agree on what's truth? Like what's...
Yeah, but not even like that. Like, why does someone not agree with me? So I guess a human, right, you have a million interactions in your life from the time you're born to the time now. And if you're presented with a problem, an issue, a question, or a thing, like subconsciously, you don't think I don't like that. Your brain puts all this stuff in a big calculator and then you just know. I don't like that. Do you like Trump? No, fuck Trump. Why? And you actually need to think about it. And that's pretty much because of information you're taking in. So when I'm looking at that and then comparing it back to the election is a good example of why people go on either side. But then, remember we watched that documentary?
Yeah, I was going to say this is all linked to The Social Dilemma, which is a great documentary that I think everyone should watch on Netflix. It's actually, they broke some records on streaming on Netflix. Mm-hmm. It's like the second most viewed documentary, something like that, on at least this year, for sure.
Yeah, well, it should be. It was a good piece.
Because it was a great piece of content, very well done, and like, the idea is to explain what's happening, how we have become a product in terms of attention things, and how these big corporations are constantly selling our attention that they get through social media and internet, all this stuff, which is super interesting. And one of the points they touch is how they are able nowadays to change the perspective and the way of thinking of someone by pushing certain information, you know.
But they're not trying to do that. That's it.
Well, depends. The example they gave of Myanmar, the government was actually pushing certain idea against specific religious people and how they were bad or whatever they were for the community, and then they started like killing all these people, other people, because of consuming that information that was provided on cell phones of them installing Facebook to them and provided like propaganda of those people.
So, but that was the government or whoever it was weaponizing the platform.
Exactly.
But the platform itself has an issue with the algorithm.
Yeah,
which is based.
Yeah. It's not the platform itself. It's the people weaponizing the platform.
Yeah. So that's like two conversations. The thing with the polarization, right, is you can blame the organization, say YouTube or Facebook, because their only goal is to keep you on the platform for longer.
Yeah.
So they can sell more ad space, right? Mm-hmm. So they don't really give a shit if you're watching Trump stuff, if that keeps you on, or liberal stuff, or aquarium videos. Like, they don't really care. Like, that's
as long as you stay on the platform. They're all competing for your attention.
Yeah, which is something that's what I've sort of after watching that. We work in marketing, so I'm like looking at this from a funny point of view, and now I'm really checking out my algorithms of what's being provided to me. And you don't want to keep watching the same stuff because you like it without understanding that you might just be consuming the same train of thought. So you're never going to challenge what you believe if you're just copying this confirmation bias of the same shit over and over again. And when I looked at it, like, we're 27-year-old dudes, right? So who do we watch? Let's say Joe Rogan, right? If you watch Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson pops up, then Ben Shapiro, then Milo Yiannopoulos, and then you go down this
rabbit hole, yeah.
And if you just keep clicking and not thinking about it, you end up there going, grrr, feminism.
Yeah.
Like, so you
vegans, fuck vegans, and all these things.
You need to like check out and have some perspective, because you understand the YouTube organization is just trying to make money. Like, okay, they have an obligation, but it's not really their fault. Jordan Peterson, he's just putting his thoughts out there, so it's not really his fault. We have to be somewhat in control of what we choose to engage with and how we believe that. What do you reckon?
I was gonna ask you. I think you know, like, everything you just explained is so true that I believe one solution to that is everyone first understanding the problem, right? So first you should watch that documentary, for example, and then understanding like, oh, okay, this is way bigger than people just getting my attention. There's a lot of problems that comes with this, and they explain like how it started, and like the true intentions with all of this. In the end, it was to make our lives easier. but then it became this huge monster that they can't control. There's so much information and stuff going on, and they can't be controlling everything that's happening. And through that, even though we have got great things for humanity thanks to social media and the internet and all these things, we now have huge problems as well because of it. The dark webs, the child trafficking, it goes way deeper. And how, like the example they gave of Myanmar, how you can manipulate a country, to create genocide within it, which is insane. And it goes to what you were saying, that we need to have awareness of like, hey, I need to have the perspective of the other side as well. You need to keep an open mind. The minute you close your mind to the other perspective, that is the minute you stop educating yourself.
Yeah, you just have to be aware of what you're consuming. Because if you start watching flat earth videos, I mean, I've done it. And then you're like, this is like half legit. I reckon if I did this for another 3 months, I'd probably believe it.
You know what's funny? That happened to me as well with flat earth.
It does, man. Yeah. I want to check out what these people are thinking.
Yeah. Like, let me just check out why these people think the earth is flat, which is insane. And then you finish watching a lot of videos and you're like, maybe it is flat.
Let me watch another video.
Yeah, just to be sure.
So, I think, people just need to really realize that anyone can create content. Anyone can put it out there. It's being served up willy-nilly. Like, fuck, just don't keep watching stuff that pops up in the recommended bar. Because I think, like, 80% of YouTube views comes from that. People just clicking the next thing. But it's only
on the autoplay. Like you finish a video and then they give you like 3-5 seconds for the next one to play, and it'll be related to that one. Because that's another thing that they also mentioned, that every video is just connected. So, let's say you are against Trump and you watch videos against Trump, people talking shit about Trump, you will never get to see actually what's the other side, because everything you watch, everything you consume, and the algorithm is designed to feed you more of what you like.
More of that. And it's not even that it's going to feed you more anti-Trump stuff. It starts going, oh, you're anti-Trump, you are pro-trans rights. So it starts serving you up an issue that's not connected to that, but it knows you're going to engage with.
Yeah.
And then once you go down that rabbit hole, it can take you a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper. And all the while, this is happening on the other side. So you end up with a group of people here, a massive void where no one lives anymore, and the other side, and they look at each other and go, you are so wrong.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
have you been watching?
Yeah.
Because they don't understand.
Yeah.
So I think there just needs to be more awareness about what people are watching.
Yeah, exactly. And like the minute you feel that, this is definitely right, maybe just take a couple minutes to, investigate what's happening on the other side.
And that's what I've been doing in the last couple months. Like I often go onto YouTube and I go to click the button and go, I'm not watching that. I know what that video is. Like, I don't really even need to watch it. I know what it's about. I'm not putting that in my life right now. And it's been good for me, I reckon. I'm less angry at people doing stupid shit because it was getting to me.
Yeah, no, to me, after watching that documentary, I was already paying a lot of attention because since we work in the space.
Well, I also just want to say, if someone hasn't seen it or you have, I think it is quite sensationalized. It paints a bleaker picture than what it really is. I wouldn't be super scared. I mean, it's talking about people getting trapped into these weird viewpoints, but also, like I said, you can get trapped into watching puppy videos. So it's not all bad. It just has
definitely it's not everything bad. But it's something that we need to pay attention to, because it could easily end up in a civil war, which is like the fact that we're bringing at the end. Like that's the next thing that's happening if we keep going this way. Businesses
in the US have boarded up their windows because they think if the election goes in the wrong direction, people are going to riot.
Yeah.
Which they probably will.
That will be an interesting thing for next week to see what were the consequences.
I think it'll only riot if Trump wins. And I don't think...
No, I don't think that will. Because some people were saying, I was listening to some people and they were like, yeah, it doesn't matter who wins, like there will be some riots and stuff. And I'm like, really?
I think if Trump loses, they'll probably start shutting down the country a bit more, like in terms of the whole COVID thing. And then everything will be like a bit more locked up. That's pretty much what he said he's going to do. I don't feel the Trump people are going to riot or... this year, everyone that's rioted in that, I think, has typically been on the liberal side of things, and they're probably more likely to do that if Trump wins. And now I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm calling no riots. Everyone's going to shut down. Economy's going to crash.
But let me tell you something. I don't give a fuck. And you know why? Because I learned about the subtle art of not giving a fuck.
That, Matty, ladies and gentlemen, is a segue.
Yeah, exactly. That was a brilliant one, right? Like, I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh, this is brilliant.
Pretty good.
Yeah, we're going to start doing more of those so we can jump straight away into different subjects so we don't get trapped. Because we were talking and we were like, maybe we need to start checking on each other when we go deep on a subject so we can talk about more shit. So yeah, we're putting it into practice. I believe that was a good one. I'm proud of that one.
The subtle art of not giving a fuck. Tell me about it.
Exactly right. So I recently read a book that is called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. He has dedicated his life pretty much to study subjects like happiness, relationships, goals, fulfillment, all these things, right? And he puts his thoughts out there in internet blogs, which became quite popular. And then his book has been a best-selling book in the past, I believe, just over a year or so. And it's quite interesting. It's one of my favorite books, so I highly recommend it. There's some things that I don't agree with, because I find that sometimes he can feel a little bit pessimist or a little bit, like, fuck, there's nothing you can do. And it's like, well, maybe you can, be a little bit more positive. But still, like, it goes back to what we were just talking about. Like, I can't read something that in some areas crashes with my beliefs and then just be like, no, I'm not open to it. You see that? So, and that was one thing that I was thinking through reading, like, I don't agree with that. But we have some, like a big common ground still throughout the book, we agree in a lot of stuff. It's just a different way of seeing it. Exactly like how we were setting all the podcasts that you told me, like, oh, let's just move this. And I said, well, maybe we can just move the table. It's the same conclusion. It's just a different avenue, to reach it. So the biggest takeaway in the book is that the key to live a great life is to give less fucks. So it's not about you not giving a fuck about anything, because that doesn't really work. Like, you have to give a fuck about something. And people who said, like, I don't give a fuck about it, they're lying. They give a fuck about something, right?
Just about the right things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's about, in the end, to give a fuck about the few things that link to your own measurements of a successful or a great life. Because I believe that there's a lot of people out there that they give way too many fucks. What are people gonna think about me? There was no one in there. I was just like, imagine someone. Yeah.
Someone that was giving too many fucks.
Yeah, someone that was giving too many fucks just walking around our set. Yeah, so like, because I include myself, because we're humans. So sometimes we give too many fucks to things that we shouldn't. So it's developing that self-awareness of like, why am I giving a fuck about what people think of me, doing a podcast or YouTube videos. I was there when I first started, like, like that fear of the judgment of other people and the criticism, the negative stuff. That was a big fear, and it's a huge one for people to get into social media and stuff like that. They fear the judgment of other people. So if you can't overcome that and understand that judgment and criticism will always be there, you just stay in your comfort zone, So it's like developing this self-awareness to understand that you just need to pick the right things, prioritize what's important for you in order to be aligned with your beliefs, your values, your goals, your happiness. And if it's in that track, yeah, you should give a fuck about that. But like most things, you should not even invest a little bit of energy into it.
That's it, right? You have a lot of time and a lot of energy. Well, not a lot. No, you have limited time and energy.
Exactly. Which are also, by the way, your most important, let's say, your most valuable things in life. Your time and energy.
Right. So yeah, you got to think about how much of that you're going to waste on things that are not important. And that's, I think, where a lot of people might get caught up. I'm pretty good at not giving a fuck.
You are great. You're the king of not giving fucks.
I didn't read the book. I read the title and I'm like, oh, yeah, I got that. I actually had this experience this morning.
Yeah.
I took Django to the dog beach, right? So we go, we swim, and then he gets covered in sand and whatnot. And then I take him out of the beach and there's this big patch of grass. And I run him on the grass and I throw a stick and he chases it up and down. He dries off before he gets in the car and the sand falls out of him. It's not a off-leash area, but it's a fucking dog, right? This man, that at the edge of the grass, there was an apartment block, and this old man who was like in his 50s came out and he's like, oi, he's like, move on, go where you're supposed to be. And I'm thinking, like, it's Saturday morning, I'm playing with my dog on the grass. So I turn to him and I'm like, is this really bothering you?
That's a great question to ask.
I couldn't believe that it was actually, but it, like, there was a fence. It's not his yard or anything. It's ages away. He was inside. He was like watching me having fun with my dog. And
he's like,
bothered him to the
fuck,
point.
I'm so angry at this man having fun with that beautiful dog.
I'm like, why? This can't be healthy for you.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't move. I wasn't really having it. It made me a little bit frustrated. I'm like, I'm not sort of stoked with you for saying that. So I did. I'm like, is it really bothering you? And he's like, yeah, it is. And I'm like, well, why? It shouldn't be. And he's like, my kids play out there. I'm like, it's a dog chasing a stick. Your kids aren't here. Like, I'm still not getting this. Like, what's the problem here? And he's like, there's plenty of places for you to be. But I just don't understand how such a harmless action made him that upset. He was genuinely upset. Like, I'm like, is he going to bloody try and call the security or the cops, or is he going to come out here and yell at me?
And I'm going to stop you right there, because I agree with you. But I'm going to play devil's advocate in here.
Well, that's what I'm asking for, because I'm like, I try to work it out. I'm like, why is he angry?
Because this is a great example, because it summarizes the stuff we've been talking about. And it's like, why did you give a fuck about why this gentleman that is clearly angry at life at that point in time about you playing with your dog? Why did you give a fuck about that instead of being like, the question you asked was great. So after asking that question and he got back to you just getting defensive, if I were you, I would have been like, okay, this person clearly is not able to have a conversation right now about this. This is not gonna go like reach any solution. Is this worth my time and energy? No.
Well, okay.
Let me just move with my dog to a place where this man doesn't bother me, I don't bother him, and I continue with my life.
Well, so that's a stage I got to. But then I'm like...
But it took you a couple steps.
No, I got to that stage where I'm like, do I pick up my shit and move for this guy that, like, it shouldn't bother him? Why should I cater to his needs? I get it wouldn't have taken much. Like, the problem, I couldn't have just moved a little bit away and still done the same thing. I pretty much put him on a lead, went back to the car. But I didn't do it straight away. I'm like, I'll just do it a couple more minutes. I stopped talking to him. I like moved a couple meters away so he couldn't really see me as much. But I didn't want to, I guess, cave into what he wanted just because he was having a tantrum. But in making that decision, it did take up too much of my energy.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want
to... time.
Well, no, because it was my time. I was already there playing with the dog. I was doing what I wanted to do. I saw through the activity I was doing, sort of regardless of what he was doing, what he asked me to do.
Every second is precious.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't, like, the conversation itself went for 20 seconds. He went back inside, pretty much told me to go. He went inside, and I'm like, okay, do I pick up my stuff and go now? What's the decision to make?
I think you should, straight after asking that question, at least me, I would have been like, yep, this is not worth it. I'm leaving with the dog to a different place. Even if I have to stop throwing the stick, you can do that here. You've done it in here. You can go to the field. Like, there's so many options for you to continue to throw the stick. That's what I'm trying to reach out.
But if I was happy to keep going and I just knew he'd be steaming on it?
No, this is... what happened is that for a point in time, you weren't able to submit your ego, which is a whole topic that I love.
It was definitely an ego thing. Yeah, I'm like, he has no right to tell me to do this. For sure,
which is a whole topic that I actually love. We can get into it in a different episode, but you had, like, your ego took the rails for you. You should have been like, yeah, this is not worth it. But then your ego was like, oh, you just said it there. I'm catering to his needs and disagreeing. Yeah. No, I'm not having this. I'm going to get defensive as well. And I'm going to stay with my dog. And then what was the outcome of it? Yeah, your ego got happy, like, ha, ha, ha.
I got what I wanted.
We won that. We got away with it. But then you made this gentleman to get even angry, and then he will spend time talking negative about you with his wife. He'll be like, this motherfucker, came today with his long hair and his beautiful dog, throwing a stick. They were having so much fun.
Can't believe how beautiful his dog was.
Yeah, but then ultimately, it's not a positive thing. And I'm not saying we're here to make everyone happy. It's not possible. We're gonna piss some people off, but it's like, as long as I can control not hurting or getting someone else's anger, it's like, why shouldn't I just do that?
This is actually a reoccurring theme for me. This has happened in the same
Yeah, I've seen you in other scenarios not being able to submit your ego.
Yep. You could say some sort of problem with authority. Like, obviously, as a filmmaker, right, I'm always like filming and shooting. I've always done action sports. So we're like filming bikes in a location where some dude walks out and he's like, get your bloody skateboards out of here. And in my head, I'm like, it's not affecting you, bro.
Yeah.
Or you're going too far. Like, but I know it's under control and I know we're not hurting anyone. It's difficult for me to be like, I'm going to pander to your needs because you don't understand the situation. That happens somewhat a lot. And it's always old people. I don't deal well with like 50 to 60-year-old people, boomers, when they just are trying to create problems out of nothing. And I feel that they could keep walking and not say anything, because that's what I would do in that situation. So yeah, that's a flaw.
But you're not doing it.
I don't know if it's a flaw though. Like, I don't feel bad about it.
I think it's great that you have the self-awareness, because I have noticed it. I've seen it a couple times, even with Beck. With your wife, I have seen a couple of things like, he's not able to submit his ego right now. And it comes to the conclusion of, pick your fucking battles, man. Be smart with the battles you're willing to take. no, like 90% of the shit that happens to you is not worth your time and energy to engage into it. It's just better to let it slide.
But sometimes, what if I just ignore those people and they yell at me like this and I just ignore it and carry on doing what I'm doing?
No, because you purposely are making them even angrier, because there's nothing that humans dislike more than being ignored.
But that's on them, right?
Yeah, but you are fueling the fire.
But it's not taking up my resources to do it.
And you acknowledge that you're making those people angry. So it's like the way I see it is like, the less I make someone else have a bad time, I'd rather take that avenue. You know, like, it's like, I'm not here to make everyone happy, but if I acknowledge that this action, which it's super a silly thing in the big picture for that point in time, I'd rather let it slide.
It depends on what level it impeaches yourself. Like, if someone was going to say, stop doing this, and you thought the action was trivial, you're like, I'll stop doing that. If someone's like, never pick up a camera again, it's making me sad, you'd be like, no, like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, well, so that makes...
They're two extremes.
Yeah.
So I guess your tolerance is higher than my tolerance.
Yeah, I just think from what I've seen and from what I'm hearing now from you, that you have some self-awareness of what a little issue you have with your ego and authoritative situations with other people. Just be like, maybe just pick your battles. If it, like, quickly be like, okay, I have a situation right here where my ego is not very happy and it's trying to tell me to do X, and I know this will upset even more the person and escalate the situation. Should I do this? Maybe, is this worth my time and energy? Maybe, and just be like, hey.
Maybe I should dive deep into a conversation with them next time. Like, when I turn around and say, is this bothering you? He says, yes. Maybe I'll walk up to the fence and be like, let's talk about it.
You're a pretty big human that if it gets quite close to someone that is telling you something that they don't like about what you're doing, I don't think they will take it like as a friendly thing. I think they will be pretty scared and even try to get defensive with a weapon, with a proper gun, like the ones we don't have.
No one has guns.
If we're getting invaded by Indonesians, we don't have guns, but that person probably has one.
No one has guns. He'll hit me with a stick.
Yeah.
Right, next topic. We're on this one too long. How long we have? 10 more minutes? I remember we never spoke about this when it happened, but do you remember I told you I got an inbox? I reshared a story on Facebook, on Instagram through the business account, the skateboard one, and someone commented in saying there was racist connotations to it.
Yeah. Oh, that was a crazy response to that. I couldn't believe that person took the time to say that.
Yeah, well, the thing is...
What was it exactly? Can you explain it?
So it was a guy in South Africa, and he was skating an electric skateboard to the airport, and he was beating the traffic because it's a quick way of transport. And he said something along the lines of beating CPT time. CPT stands for Cape Town, the capital of... Is it the capital? I hope so.
Yeah,
Johannesburg.
I think so. Yeah.
Big place, anyway. So he's like, I'm beating Cape Town thing. And then someone messaged in, and apparently CPT stands for Coloured People's Time. So by
what?
So by beating CPT, he was inferring that black people were always late. And then by me resharing the story, I was supporting racism.
That point of view, yeah.
And now the brand is supporting racism. And I'm like, holy moly.
Yeah.
Like, this is a reach. And I mean, I think because it was one guy, I'm like, okay, I'm not deleting the story. Maybe if like 20 people messaged in and they're like, whoa, that's bad. You think about it differently. But it made me like think about offenses taken, not given. So when I was thinking of should I take it down or not, the guy that posted it, his intention was not to offend, obviously. He didn't even know what it was. I double checked with him. I'm like, hey, mate, what does that mean? And when I told him what someone said, he was He thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, like, this is crazy.
So I'm like, the intention wasn't there, so I'm not apologizing for it or taking it down, which I think happens a lot all around the world. People say something and then people take offense and then try and force apology.
You always offend another human, doesn't matter what you say. Like, whatever you say, even if you're the most positive person, the most neutral person, you will always be offending someone. If you're too neutral, people will be like, oh, you're supporting the other side, you know, like, kind of thing. Like, so there's no way of not offending.
So what do you think is the best way to navigate it? Just stay true to yourself. As long as you believe your intentions are correct, don't apologize.
That's a tricky thing.
It is tricky.
And it is tricky because, and it comes back to one of the first things we talk about. Like, how can we all agree on what's true and what's not? Because then, if you have a human that is killing 20 people, if you really check on him, I can assure you his intentions, he believes he's doing the right thing. Like, he thinks that I should kill these people because my God is requiring me to kill some people before I get there for how many virgins I will get in there, you know. So that's the same for
balance point, then?
That's the same for the people that are like, hey, we should save the planet and all these things, right? Like, their intentions, both of them, are good according to their own values.
Which comes back to what we were talking about, every person's got an inherent bias within them. Mm-hmm. So you have to check in on your bias and make sure it's pointing you in the right direction. But then who is to say what is the right direction?
Yeah, and I think the solution for that is like just keeping yourself being curious, being like, okay, why do I think this is the right thing? Why is my God asking me to kill people? Let me first, before doing it, let me double check what other gods say, or what even the people that don't believe in God, why do they don't believe in God? You know, why do they?
Let's throw a hypothetical out there. Mm. Say you do a YouTube video and your purpose is like, you're like, I'm going to inspire people from my beliefs of how to live a healthier, happier life. You throw this on me all the time. Mm. And the things that you enjoy and you think is good, say exercise is a big one, being sort of mindful of your body, and you say something along the lines of being fat is not very healthy and people are going to die. That's sort of a fact, but if people took offense to that and came at you for being fattest, would you hold
is that an actual word?
Yeah, fattest, like sexist.
Fattest.
No one takes them seriously.
Wouldn't fattest be the most fat person?
Jimmy Carr's got a joke about that.
Yeah, okay.
He's like, this large lady came to me after the show and said, you are fattest. And he's like, no, you're the fattest.
Oh, that's great.
But seriously, like, say in a situation like that and people were genuinely getting offended, say your comment section was blowing up, your dislike ratio is 5 times more than your like ratio, what would you do?
I think you have to have some sort of clarity and logic to be like, okay, if I'm getting so many people offended, which usually doesn't happen,
it can,
maybe I need to question why are they getting offended first, and double check my values and my beliefs and why did I say the things that I said. I believe that you should never apologize for something after you checked the values, after you checked the perspectives, after you heard the other side. If you still believe after you're giving all the information, you still believe like that your intentions came from a good place and all those things, that you should never force an apology. That's my point of view. Like, if tomorrow someone comes to me and says like, I start getting a group of people being like, hey, we hate that you encourage people to pursue their dreams. We believe they belong into the system we have created and they shouldn't be pursuing dreams. They should be fucking working for our companies, whatever. After taking a little bit of time to detach and be like, okay, why are these people angry at what I'm saying if I'm just trying to encourage people to pursue what is true to them? Let me hear what these people have to say. Let me do a little bit of research. What are these people into? What kind of thoughts are they putting out there? Why are they putting those thoughts out there? What's the background of those people? Same with the guy that was saying that the CPT was a racist thing. What's the background of that person? Why is he saying that? How has his life been shaped? What kind of racism has he experienced that he took the time to tell you that? So it's like, after you do as much research as you can, if I still believe that I'm doing the right thing by encouraging other people to pursue their dreams, I wouldn't issue an apology and being like, hey guys, you know what, I messed up. You shouldn't pursue your dreams, just because of pressure. I don't think that goes against my beliefs, which are one of them, stay true to me, to myself.
Yeah. No, I agree. 100% agree. And I feel it's, you, especially in celebrity culture, you see these apologies a lot. And you're like, bro.
And you can tell from far away when they don't mean it. When they were like under the pressure, and instead of trying to get the conversation going or the point of view, because that's the thing, you could never shut down a conversation. It's like with flat earthers or stuff like that. Like, you can't shut them down, because like we're not supposed to do that. When you have the solution to bad arguments is having the right argument. That's the 100%. Only way to actually shape the culture, to provide better thoughts out there and better beliefs as well.
I don't have a really cool segue like we did on the other ones.
So no, we're pretty new into it,
Yes.
We will get better, and I believe one thing we're missing is like having our notes accessible, because then my phone is recording with the camera, your phone is somewhere in there. So if we have like just the thoughts accessible, and it's like, I wanted to get into that.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
One thing I wanted to talk about, or at least hear your point of view on, was how still on social media, when you're looking at people, and we produce content, right? So we put it out there, how a filter on your life or on other people's lives is consumed to think people are living in a different way. Is that a good way to explain it? Let's try again. Do we recognize that when we look at social media, people have filtered their life? So we're seeing the best of the best. We're seeing what they're trying to put out there. You and I as content creators do the same thing. If you look at either of our Instagrams...
Yeah, we're guilty.
We do it because it sort of makes sense, right? I'm not going to put up a story of me making toast in the morning. That's sort of what social media is. But... how many people recognize that what they're
if you do put the story of the toast, it better have butter.
Yeah, I just made toast for Beck. Butter, Vegemite, and grated cheese.
Yeah, I currently have a little problem with butter that is like not made out of dairy and stuff. So it's supposed to be like a healthy version of butter, but it still tastes like butter. It's so good, man.
Butter's great.
Anyways, it was just a little thing that I wanted to add.
Side note. So yeah, how do you feel, maybe not you and I, because we are more aware of it because we do it so much, but people interface with our content and consume it in a way that they know that, we're real people, or the super celebrities are not living that particular life. They still live a normal life. How do you follow a couple in a perfect relationship? It's not. So
are you trying to ask what are the thoughts on what other people take from the content they consume?
Yeah,
celebrities, influencers, or brands, all these things?
Yeah, pretty much. How are people consuming that, and what does that do to them?
Which is a thing that I think about very often, actually. I'm trying... Every time I make a podcast or a video or I put myself out there, I try to think a little bit of what will be the repercussions of the way people perceive my life. That's why I believe that having the podcast is such a great platform to put a reality check, because it's like, if you go just to my Instagram, it's like, holy shit, this dude travels a lot. He's ripped, all these things, whatever you get from just watching my photos. Then if you go to my videos, it's like, holy shit, he has, like a great camera. The video quality looks beautiful. Like he lives close to the beach, whatever. He goes travel, these things. And then in some videos, but mostly the podcast, you get the fully version of Nelson. It's like, okay, he's just a guy that had to start from scratch. He comes from a country where everything's fucked, that there's a dictatorship going on. And, like you started seeing like, yeah, he's not that good looking, whatever, like
no one's saying that.
You start watching what's the purest version of me, and then you're like, oh, that's the way he thinks. Oh, that's the story behind that great looking video. Look how much struggle and work went into that to make that happen.
You're putting that out. A lot of people don't.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to get. That's me. But then most people, I don't think there's a real version of them. And as we have experienced in the past, talking to other influencers, meeting other content creators, I bet you have gone through this as well, that they look super sick, they look super friendly on social media, like you think you will connect really well, and then you meet them in real life and it's like, holy fuck, is that you? Is that your true personality? You are not like that in your videos. You're not like that in your Insta stories. Like
you have to turn it on.
Yeah, it's like they put this mask and suit and be like, yeah, time to create some content and get some likes and shit. But it's not the true version of them.
Yeah, but also if they don't do it, they won't be successful. So it's a catch-22. And we see it a lot. Like if you look at Sam Coulter, for instance, I love him. Right? Amazing. Those, if you watch the highlight videos, the short ones, you're like, man, this guy is fucking living the life. When you watch the longer ones with the behind the scenes, and then coming in from a filmmaking perspective, we've done those trips, like the Cairns one. You get up at sunrise, you're in a car trying to get to the location, get next shot. It's not the same as going on a holiday and actually enjoying it and being in the moment.
Which is a mistake everyone makes every time they watch a travel video and stuff. They think it's like, oh, he's just on vacation with a camera and making shit.
The purpose of the vacation was to make that film. And he put blood, sweat, and tears into it. So I don't think people living this crazy, amazing influencer life, being a digital nomad, they're grinding. And even when they show that they're grinding, maybe people who aren't filmmakers and stuff don't fully understand. They don't fully understand.
Like you don't get the full picture unless you're in the shoes. I truly believe that most people, really 95% of people, don't, even like friends, don't truly understand how much work I put into the stuff that I'm trying to build. Like because you live with me now, I guess you get like even a closer look of how much hours and shit I put into everything I'm trying to build. But even like when I explain to my friends, like, yeah, like this is what I do every day, blah blah blah, I don't really get out of the house that much, just for doing now surfing and stuff. But other than that, it's just me editing behind a computer almost like 12 hours. Usually it's 12 hours a day. So it's like, until you see it, you don't understand it, or either seeing it or living it.
Yeah, because I see that a lot in Sam's videos. There's like one of his mates like passed out in the back seat sleeping. I'm like, that motherfucker's been awake for 20 hours
straight.
He's hiked a mountain. He's carrying all the gear. Like he's a wrecked human.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we did this when we did that GTR video. It was like a 20-day period of time with 15 days of shooting in like 4 countries or something. I was almost broken. Like it was fucked. We did that many sunrises, that many sunsets, that many flights crammed in, carrying stuff.
Yeah. It's a lot of camera equipment. It's a lot of heavy stuff. Even when you're manipulating the camera equipment, your back gets tired. You know, like getting the shot usually requires risk with the camera gear, all these things. You know, like there's so much that goes into it. And even just given the example you gave of our last trip to Cairns, which it was like a 4-day thing to make videos for the electric skateboard company, it was a shit ton of work. We didn't have a chill time.
No.
You know, that didn't happen.
I had the ambassadors and different things from the brand message me saying, man, next time you do that, I want to come. I want to do that. I'm like, do you? Like, I know you want to, but some of you don't. Like,
most people,
yeah,
if they get to see what it actually is to make like a video like the one we made, or even Tasmania, they'll be like, yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that. Yeah, are you willing to wake up at 5 sharp, you know, to start carrying all the equipment, all these things, to repeat so many scenes because we need to get the right shot, all these things. We need to move locations. We're gonna have to have little food because there's no time to accomplish everything we need. Like, there's so much that goes into it. We end up getting back into the Airbnb around 8-9 p.m. and we still need to do the backups. We still need to charge all the equipment. We still need to set up the bags, the camera gear, the boards, all these things to wake up at 5 again.
Yeah, so we got to be in the car to get to the next location as the sun's coming up.
Exactly.
It's a lot. And I guess that sort of ties in what we started talking about at the beginning of the episode, where it's like, when you're consuming content, think about what that content is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You need to think in what went into making that happen, or what is that person's bias, or what are you consuming? Like, you can't follow the perfect couple, expect a relationship to be like that, and sit around single until you're 35 because Prince Charming didn't walk in the door, because that guy on the video is Prince Charming, because that's not going to happen. They might be putting that out there. Not going to happen. You might be watching some dude that does crazy e-commerce stuff and he makes this much money. Does he though? You don't know that. Like, there's been that many people that have like been caught out for renting houses and cars. Like, you don't know, and don't feel down because you're not reaching some like forced perception, some Hollywood style bullshit that someone's put together. Just be aware of the content that you're consuming.
Exactly right. I think that's a great point to end. And now we'll summarize it with challenge your beliefs constantly.
Yep. And that's it. So challenge your beliefs and be aware of what you're consuming. Don't keep feeding those current beliefs, because you're going to go down a rabbit hole and become a flat earther.
Yeah, exactly. Like we almost did. We went in, but we came back.
I was so close.
Yeah, I was in the line. I was about to jump.
Yeah, well, that's it. No, I just came out the other side and became an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah. So yeah, people constantly try to get on the other side of the spectrum. Acknowledge that there will always be a different point of view to yours, and be curious about what they have to say so you can be at the right spot, which in most cases is somewhere in the middle. It's not at the end of either spectrum. You need to have some balance.
And on that note, where can they find us, Nelson?
I'm at Nelfalife on every platform: YouTube, Instagram, Twitter.
And you'll find me at a guy called Matty, and you will find us
on the Good Vibes Theory,
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the video is on YouTube.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Smash that red button if you like this episode. If you want to give the extra smile and support us to reach more people, it will be really cool if you take 2 minutes to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. But we'll see you on the next episode.
See you next time, guys.
You.
Boom.